outside the box, take a different road. Shake things up, let your story unfold. Unconventional playbook, break the mold. Let your heart guide you, let your tale be told.
Unconventional, exceptional, writing our own rules, feeling sensational. Unconventional, exceptional, embracing who we are, feeling invisible.
Yeah, colors outside the lines, dance in the rain. Embrace the chaos, release the pain. Unconventional playbook, let's make a change. Let's rewrite the stars, let's rearrange.
Unconventional, exceptional, writing our own rules, feeling sensational. Unconventional, exceptional, embracing who we are, feeling invisible.
Be bold, be brave, stand tall. Embrace the journey, rise after the fall. Unconventional playbook, we have it all. Let's break free, let's stand up tall.
Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Today is, we're going to kind of get away from Vikings talk a little bit. We've been covering the Vikings. We said that this is what we're going to be in the fall, primarily covering the Vikings NFL season. But we're not necessarily just a Minnesota Vikings channel. There's going to be times where we're going to touch on a lot of different topics. And I guess I want to just talk about today should kind of be Tell the Truth Wednesday. To me, the human brain is one of the most fascinating things in the world. Like there are times where you could show somebody something, or it could be something that is in plain sight. And if people are biased towards a certain perspective, it's like they don't want to see it and they tune it out and they put blinders on to different topics and situations. It's just an amazing thing. And the reason why I bring that up is because that's going on a lot in sports today. I want to talk about me being from Cleveland. You guys know I'm from Ohio. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Grew up there till I was 18, moved to Minnesota to attend the University of Minnesota. But I grew up a big-time Cleveland Browns fan. And I've watched pretty much every Cleveland Browns game since I was about 5 years old. I remember the greats like Brian Sipe. I remember the two running back combination of Ernest Biner and Kevin Mack. I remember the Webster Slaughters. I remember the Ozzie Newsomes. I remember the Paul McDonalds. I remember the Clay Matthewses. I remember all of these great Cleveland Brown players. I remember Municipal Stadium. I remember my dad and I used to go to games, and my dad never wanted to pay for that expensive parking, so we would park blocks away, finding a spot, and then we would walk to the game, and we would sit in the dog pound and watch games. Those were great memories. I have an affinity for the Cleveland Browns. And then I went to school at the University of Minnesota in 1991, and I adopted a new team. Still a Cleveland Browns fan, but I also became a Minnesota Vikings fan as well. Now let's talk about what's going on in Cleveland, because I'm really passionate about it. And I'm going to tell you that Cleveland fans, they get a lot of flack. They got to deal with the mistake by the lake, all this BS that the national media puts out there and other fans put out there. The Cleveland fans endure. They have endured heartbreak after heartbreak. They still support the team. Art Modell taking the team to Baltimore. Us keeping our brand. Getting an expansion team that has morphed into what the Cleveland Browns are today. So I've been there. And Cleveland fans are some of the most passionate fans in the world. In the world, they will support that team no matter how many games they lose. They will continue to support. And so I've always thought, as passionate as the Browns fans are, the owners have somewhat an advantage when they see that passion. They can raise ticket prices. They pretty much can do whatever they want to the team. They don't necessarily have to put winning on the forefront because they know that the Cleveland Browns fans are going to show up regardless, no matter what. So I look at this Deshaun Watson situation. And the reason why I bring this up is because I had an opportunity to talk to a lot of my friends back home that are still pining for the Cleveland Browns to do something. I would love to see the Cleveland Browns do something. But I'm 51 years old, man. And it's like, we've been close but no cigar a handful of times, and it just doesn't seem like it's getting any better. They gave a few years ago Deshaun Watson the bag. And Deshaun Watson was marred in a lot of controversy. He was in a lot of trouble, on the verge of being suspended by the league, which again, he got eventually suspended by the league. He had a lot of civil lawsuits against him, a lot of women suing him for sexual misconduct. And the Browns made the decision to cut ties with Baker Mayfield, who Baker Mayfield led the Cleveland Browns to a playoff appearance for the first time, really, since the Browns had been back. That's what Baker did. And when Baker got really bad, it's because he had a torn labrum and he couldn't perform his last years with the Browns, not up to his capabilities, but the fact that the guy was out there balling or trying to ball with a torn labrum. I don't know if you guys have ever had a torn labrum, but my God, that's a lot of pain, and he's out there getting hit playing one-armed for the Cleveland Browns. But they made the decision that they didn't want Baker Mayfield anymore, and they put all their chips to the table on Deshaun Watson. Now, what's remarkable to me about Deshaun Watson is this. I know the pulse of the Cleveland fans and the Cleveland fan base. I'm really entwined into it because I have emotions invested in the team. I have people that live back home in Cleveland. And it just seems to me that Deshaun Watson gets somewhat of a pass. Deshaun Watson, for all intents and purposes, has been terrible for our franchise so far. If I had to grade the 3 years that Deshaun Watson has been affiliated with the Cleveland Browns, it's been suspensions, it's been injuries, and it's been lackluster play. And I don't think anybody could argue that. So my question to Cleveland Browns fans and to my friends back home is, when you got rid of Baker Mayfield and you paid Deshaun Watson, you presented him with a contract for about $240 million. Is this what you envision this being like? Is this what you envision from Deshaun Watson? Because I watched the game on Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys, and the first thing some of my friends said back home is that, oh man, it's not all Deshaun Watson's fault. They got their 2 tackles out. The offensive line is not playing well. The defensive line is not playing well. They really don't have a running game. Nick Chubb is out. It seems to me with Deshaun Watson, there's always some excuse, or there's always a cushion to fall in. I couldn't imagine if roles were reversed and this was Baker Mayfield and his body of work. Oh, Baker Mayfield would have been killed. He would have been killed by the fans, in the media, because Baker came off as a little cocky. So I think a lot of people always wanted to humble Baker. And I'm not saying Baker Mayfield was perfect. I'm just giving you the facts. This is Unconventional Playbook. Baker Mayfield led us to a playoff game with the playoff win. You saw it last year with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco comes in, leads the Browns to the playoffs. And you're talking about 2 quarterbacks that weren't making anything near what Deshaun Watson was making. So my point is, for everyone that's making excuses about why Deshaun Watson can't perform, offensive line, no running game, defense didn't play well, 2 tackles out against the Dallas Cowboys. Here's what I'm here to tell you. You're wrong. You're wrong. When you give a quarterback like Deshaun Watson the bag, $240 million fully guaranteed, you are signing up to be a difference maker. I don't care whether the offensive line is bad. I don't care whether you don't have a running game. I don't care what your defense look like. When the game is done, your stats has to be your stats. And sometimes it may not equate into a win, but the one thing that we better be sure of is that you're balling out. That you're stepping up to you can't look like Deshaun Watson has been looking in Cleveland and make that amount of money. And for Cleveland fans that are protecting this dude and don't want to see him fail, so they put their blinders on about how he's playing, you're wrong. He's stinking up the joint. And see, there has to be a standard in Cleveland, and there is none. Like, I don't want to pay a quarterback that amount of money to quarterback my football team and look like that, because I think more highly of the Cleveland Browns. I want to see them do great things. But I'm telling you, if you stick with what Deshaun Watson is right now, you're going to fail. Because Deshaun Watson is not it, man. He's not it. That is the truth. And you have to see. You remember a few years ago, Nick Saban had to make a decision at halftime to bench the quarterback that got him to the national championship game and put in Tua at halftime. Do you know what that amount of guts that took? What people would have said if they would have lost that game and got shelled that game when he made that move? But he knew that he only had a certain amount of time to make a move that will make a difference. But you have to recognize the fact when the wheels start falling off. The wheels are falling off the Cleveland Browns. And you can pretend that Deshaun Watson is rusty. Oh, Deshaun Watson just coming off an injury. Oh, he doesn't, when Nick Chubb. You can keep making these excuses if you want. But great GMs, great owners, great coaches know when you have to make a move. These are important positions, man. These general managers' positions, you've got to have guts of steel. And you can't be afraid to make a move and know that you were wrong. You've got to be man enough or woman enough to know when you're wrong. The Cleveland Browns were wrong about Deshaun Watson. Cleveland fans, it ain't going to get any better as long as Deshaun Watson is at the helm. It's not going to get any better. Now, I've heard some people, we go with James Winston. He's not the answer either. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you make that move, the offense is going to look better. Because Deshaun Watson, for whatever reason, I'm not going to even go as far as he's cooked. People are saying, oh, Deshaun Watson is done. He's cooked. I don't know if I believe that or not. I just know that the Deshaun Watson that we paid for, that we watched with the Houston Texans, is never going to be the Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. And I will go even further and say that he's not even going to be close to that. Dude, how long is it going to take? Have you seen any signs? Man, $240 million. for that. And it ain't going to get any better. And so I want to see the Cleveland Browns succeed as a franchise. Man, this franchise has been through it. Again, my dad was a stout Cleveland Browns fan. I remember we used to get together as families on our street. We lived next door to the Austins. We used to always have Sunday Cleveland Browns watch parties. Those were fun as a kid because our parents used to be into those games. So I'm emotionally invested, man. I love the Cleveland Browns franchise. Even though I've adopted the Minnesota Vikings, I still, the orange and brown still runs through my veins. And I want to see them do well. But it's time to face the truth. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions. And Deshaun Watson is not it, man. Those of you that are waiting for that guy to turn the Cleveland Browns franchise around and all of a sudden magically become close to the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, man, you're going to be waiting for a long time because that's not walking through the door. It was a bad signing. It was a bad choice. It was a bad mistake. And if the Browns don't try to rectify this thing quickly, it's going to set them back another 5 to 8 years. And they will continue to be irrelevant. Sad, man. Sad. Tell the truth. Wednesday. Here's another thing. Kirk Cousins with the Atlanta Falcons. Bad choice. And when I heard that Kirk Cousins was leaving the Minnesota Vikings, man, I jumped for joy. I have been in the abyss of hell with mediocre quarterback play from Kirk Cousins. And again, the human brain is really weird, man. Rick Spielman, for some reason, thought that this guy, when he was with the Washington Redskins, he looked at film, he watched the guy play, and he thought this is the guy that can lead us to the promised land. And here's another quarterback that they gave the bag to at the time. He was the highest paid quarterback in the league, and the first time any player had had a fully guaranteed contract, every single penny. And people don't realize when he came to the Minnesota Vikings, we had the #1 defense in the league, and Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the difference maker. And we had Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, and Kirk Cousins could not lead us to the promised land. And again, you're going to have all these people. Well, there's more than one player on the team, and I understand that. That's a common sense thing. But if that's honestly the case, why do we look at the quarterback position and say that we need to pay these guys $55 to $60 million a year because that position is important and that position comes with a high expectation of responsibility. You're going to get all the praise, you're going to get all the money, so you got to carry the load. You've got to have big shoulders, right? Doesn't that make sense? So if you're paying somebody over $100 million, there's a certain expectation that I don't care what's going on in other places, you better perform. And you better be that difference maker. And Kirk Cousins was never the difference maker in Minnesota. Stat stuffer, he'll give you 4,000 yards a year. He'll give you pretty much a low percentage of interceptions, maybe 8 to 10 to 12 interceptions a year, not bad. He'll throw for maybe 25 to 26 touchdowns a year, so not bad. But was he a difference maker? Did he deserve the bag that he got? Because it never panned out for the Vikings. And here's what's amazing. You have a body of work now at 2 franchises. Washington, at the time, Washington Redskins, now the Commanders. And then the Minnesota Vikings. You have film. You have proof. Look at his resume. And the Atlanta Falcons, with all of the resources that are out there, guys that are paid millions and millions of dollars to make decisions for franchises, make the decision to bring Kirk Cousins in for over $100 million. And he was trying to hold the Vikings hostage with that same sort of contract. And it's amazing to me that the Atlanta Falcons could not see what's right in front of their face. And then to throw on top of that, he's coming off an Achilles injury. If Kirk Cousins was fully healthy going into Atlanta Falcons training camp, Kirk Cousins still wouldn't make a difference for the Atlanta Falcons, fully healthy. If he had never hurt his Achilles, that dude is not a difference maker. It's tell the truth frickin' Wednesday. And it's amazing that these guys that are paid this money, where this is all they do, scout and watch film and make decisions on who to sign, they felt like Kirk Cousins is the missing piece to their talented team. Mistake. You're wrong. Because what's going to eventually happen is they've got the shiny new car in the garage, Michael Penix Jr. So the Atlanta Falcons aren't going to take too many games like Kirk Cousins played on Sunday. Like, that's not going to happen. Where the whole second half of the game, you throw for 19 yards. See, I've seen these performances before. I've seen the 1, 2, 3 and outs from Kirk Cousins before. I've seen the crucial interceptions in crunch time when you need them. And man, it's not going to get any worse looking at their next two games. It's not going to get any better. Get any worse. It's not going to get any better. Michael Penix Jr., before the end of the season, will be the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. You can book it. The Atlanta Falcons have made an egregious mistake. I always say this. These franchises that pay their quarterbacks these astronomical amounts, 55, 60 million, and it's those franchises where your quarterback is pretty good, not really good enough to get you over the hump, but you really don't have any options, so you got to sign him. Those are franchises that are in trouble. Franchises that are on the brink of being in trouble and they don't even see it. Well, number one, the Cleveland Browns are in trouble. Number two, the Atlanta Falcons are in trouble. Two quarterbacks that are playing mediocre or less than mediocre ball with huge contracts so you can't fill out your team. I would throw the Dallas Cowboys in there as well. Dak Prescott better be the difference maker for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think he is, and now you've invested $60 million a year in that man. That's tough, and it's because you really don't have any options. See, but I think as a GM now, when you see the formula that works, you got to play hardball because you can fill out your team and win with a lesser quarterback. That has been proven in the NFL. It's been proven. So now the Dallas Cowboys are stuck with that contract. Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray, you are stuck with that contract. I'm even going to throw the Green Bay Packers out there. You better hope that Jordan Love is the real deal with the money that you have invested in him, because good luck filling your team out in the future. I haven't been there as a Minnesota Viking fan. I am so relieved to get rid of Kirk Cousins and that contract and have J.J. McCarthy for at least another 4 years under a rookie contract where now we can fill some holes finally on our football team. Tell the truth Wednesday, man. Pay Kirk Cousins too much freaking money. You're paying Deshaun Watson too much freaking money. And it amazes me when I hear some of these fans talk. Like, there were people in Minnesota when Kirk Cousins left, they were devastated. I'm like, why are you devastated? What did he do here that was so great? I can understand you being really disappointed, because there wasn't really a plan that we saw right away when the decision was made. We didn't know who our quarterback was going to be. Would we trade for somebody? Would we go with a rookie that we drafted in the NFL draft? We had no idea. So I can understand the concern. But what I didn't understand was the devastation that some of the Minnesota Viking fans felt about losing Kirk Cousins. I'm like, what for? What is up with the devastation? It's amazing to me, man. The human brain is really, really weird, and I feel bad. I don't feel bad for the, Atlanta Falcons, because I think they were at least forethinking enough to say, hey, if this Achilles Kirk Cousins doesn't work out, or if we don't like what we see, let's draft Michael Penix. We're not going to be probably in this situation again in the future for a very long time. So here's our chance to get our franchise guy. And a lot of people were critical of the Atlanta Falcons front office, but I think they did a good job. Forward thinking, I think they did a good job. The Cleveland Browns, man, I am concerned. Man, I was excited when Deshaun Watson came to the Browns. I thought, okay, this could finally catapult our franchise. As with a lot of other big moves that the Cleveland Browns have made, Odell Beckham Jr. and, drafting Johnny Manziel, it's like every time that organization feels like they're doing something really good, it turns out to be fool's gold. And I just think Deshaun Watson is fool's gold. I don't see any sign of the player that we thought we were getting in Houston. And I asked the question, when we jettisoned Baker Mayfield out of Cleveland and we brought in Deshaun Watson, is this what you envisioned? Because from the Cleveland Browns contingent, man, for the most part, I'm hearing crickets. And I remember when we had Baker Mayfield, if Baker Mayfield threw an incomplete pass, Browns fans were all over. It's crazy, man. Tell the truth Wednesday. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'm your host, Lionel Jones. This has been Unconventional Playbook. I just wanted to get some things off my chest. Tell the truth Wednesday. Like, look at what you see and evaluate things the way they're supposed to be evaluated. I don't want to hear any more excuses about Deshaun Watson. I don't want to hear any excuses about Kirk Cousins. They ask for the bag. They are always, them and their people are always great negotiators of contracts. My client can do this. My client can do that. Well, it's time for your client to show up on the field and do something. How about that? This has been Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Keep supporting the channel. We are growing by leaps and bounds. Latrey, take us out of here, man.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?